we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Well, good evening, folks. How are you? I hope you're having a very nice night. I know I am. I'm at the launch of Anslie Bullion's Gold Coast office. It's opened yesterday very quietly, open for business today, but fully open on Monday morning, ready to roar. And with me is the CEO of Anslie Bullion, Michael Engerman. You've got to be very proud of your new office, mate. I've been in there today. It's quite exceptional.
Oh, look, absolutely, Carl. I mean, it took us a little while to get here, but couldn't be prouder. It's a wonderful site, looks good. The builders have done a great job, so I encourage everyone to get into it.
So let's give them the address to begin with. Corner of Marquerie Street and Gold Coast Highway. It's very easy to find, and parking is really easy.
Yeah, and to be exact, 2400 Gold Coast Highway, or just Mermaid Beach Plaza. That's the other way to get it, because it's the Woolworths Centre, and we're up above them on level 3. Yeah,
and it's a beautiful office, folks, really nice. Now, you've got a new operations manager in there, James.
Yep, yeah, James has been with us a while, Carl. You've probably seen him in Brisbane, learning the digs, travelling from the Gold Coast every day, which is a big feat. Loved it when the 50-cent fare came in, because then could pocket the rest and put it into silver. But no, look, the team is new but experienced, because we've invested heavily in them. They've probably, James has been with us well over a year, going on to 2. A couple of the other guys have been with us about 7 months, and then there's a couple there that are probably about 4 months in. So
tremendous.
Well and truly invested in their experience.
Now, as I say, I was in the office today. You have a pretty big range of stock, but not the full range just yet, or maybe that's changing since I was in there this summer.
Yeah, look, it's coming, and you're spot on, because today wasn't an official day. Monday's the official. When I left there tonight, it's got a lot more stock there, so we're happy to see that. And we'll eventually just start putting more and more stock in. Now, remembering Brisbane is the home base, and that is where everything is. So we will just start feeding Gold Coast stock as we see Gold Coast needs it.
I see you managed to get a 10-kilo silver coin down here.
Impressive, mate.
Wow.
Very impressive.
Isn't that amazing?
Well, we've got the new display as well. What I really encourage your listeners to do is go in and have a look, because that display cabinet is twice as big.
Yeah.
So I've made it purposely twice as big, because what we find in Melbourne and Brisbane, we just don't get enough stock away.
Yeah,
we can't get enough stock in there for the customers to see. So this is going to be much more appealing when they're walking through.
Well, I can tell you, folks, this 10-kilo coin is absolutely amazing. I want one. I just couldn't. What am I worth?
Oh,
20 something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, if you got 20 grand, I'd be putting it in that, and it'd make an ideal plate on your table or something. Just throw a little cloth over it, and nobody'd know the difference, would they?
No, it's about that big too.
So tonight, mate, we are launching it. What's the plan for tonight? A couple of drinks and a big welcome speech?
I'm constantly learning with this, Carl. We, as everyone knows, or maybe not, but we're a family business based out of Brisbane. We had the Brisbane office, and then we've grown from that. In 2019, we decided to go to Melbourne, and we then did the Melbourne branch and the Melbourne Vault down in Melbourne, and now we're doing obviously the Gold Coast some years later. And every time I've done one of these, I'm learning a little bit more. And one thing that we probably didn't do that well, because it's an oversight of ours, and I think it's naturally most people do have a bit of oversight in this area, is not to celebrate it. I mean, it's a celebration.
Sure.
It's worth celebrating, because every single person here has contributed in some way to Anslie's success. So, and for us to be able to open a site here on the Gold Coast, there's numerous reasons, and I'm going to get into that later tonight with everyone here, but mainly because our customers ask us to do it.
Sure.
So, we learn a lot, and that's what we're doing tonight. It's just about a celebration, a couple of hours to get everyone together. That's why.
Congratulations again, Michael. The address 2400 or 2400 Gold Coast Highway, or on the corner of Marquerie Street, Gold Coast Highway. Plenty of parking underneath the Woolworths complex, and you find the lifts, go up to level 3, turn left as you walk out, and it's easy to find.
Yeah, very easy. No, good.
Michael, thank you again for supporting the Voice of Freedom.
Thank
and
you for supporting us, Carl.
So really appreciate it. And let's go and have a beer, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right,
thanks
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Folks, going to love you and leave you. I can't really hear anything or see anything tonight, but Vince is sitting there pushing the buttons for us, and as you can see, I'm melting. I'm wearing a suit for the first time in a while, and it's bloody hot. At any rate, we're going to have a little bit of a night here. I'll take some video and we'll play that for you over the weekend at some stage. But for tonight's show, I want to catch up with Muki from TASA. Now, I caught up with him yesterday, and so this is a pre-recorded interview, but I've got to say I found a lot of what he had to say extremely interesting, and I'm sure you're going to find it the same. So without further ado, folks, please put your hands together and welcome Muki from TASA, and we'll figure out exactly what that's all about. Thanks, Vince. There's never been a shortage of common law arguments around the country of how we can progress our arguments further, the people against the government, should we say. Now, many people may have heard the term TASA, and many more are quite probably familiar with TASA, but there are a lot of people who aren't. So I thought, we haven't had TASA on for a chat, and it's about time we did. So I've got Muki from TASA joining us today to have a bit of a discussion about it all. Thanks for sparing a bit of time, Muki. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, Carl. Thank you very much for inviting me in for a chat.
Now, TASA has been on, well, my radar, I suppose, for the last 18 months or so, 2 years. The movement has grown quite exceptionally since its inception. Can you just explain to me what TASA is and how it came into being?
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a long story. My wife and I have been on this journey for, well, in earnest for about 16 years. We're just wanting our freedom. You know, we live on a permaculture property. We just want to be left alone like yourself, and didn't want to be harassed. We realised that the government is a corporation, or is a corporation, and we wanted to learn to defend ourselves from the rapacious antics. So we learned a lot about it. We started studying common law and focusing more and more on common law. And about nearly 12 years ago, I was studying a word called personage, which blew my mind. So this word personage led me to a website called annavonrights.com. And it led me to an article on her website called The Nut is Cracked. Now there's nearly 6,000 articles on Anna's website now. She's a prolific writer and a Superior Court Justice land law. So she's not a part of the Bar Association and doesn't claim to be. So checking out this word personage, the article's name is The Nut is Cracked. And it absolutely blew my mind. It was it started talking about naming conventions. So for those not familiar with naming conventions, it's the same name formatted differently. So if you pull out your wallet or your purses, whatever the case may be, and you start spreading your cards out, your library card, your driver's license, your Medicare card, your bank cards, even pull out your passport, and you look at the names on all these different cards, and you'll see it's the same name, but they're all formatted differently. And each one of those different formats is a different corporation that we've been deceived to giving life to. And the article actually shows you, in the article, The Nut is Cracked, it shows you which corporation owns which grammatical format of the same name. It was mind-blowing. Right. This is 12 years ago. This blew my mind. So it sent me on a process of discovery. And my wife, she's got three master's degrees and a bachelor's. So she's very clued into researching, and we discovered this at the same time, and it's irrefutable. So these naming conventions that we're giving life to are worth a small fortune, and they're all parasiting on the person. I guess if you've been on this journey for a while, most people would know the legal definition of person. It means corporation.
Yep.
So then I started looking at the whole aspect of Commonwealth of Australia, you know, and every single person in the Commonwealth is entitled to their share of the Commonwealth.
That's right. We are a shareholder. Every one of us is a single shareholder of the Commonwealth.
Correct. So there's some countries where that money comes back to the people, like in some of the Pacific Islands, let's say, they share it amongst the people, but it's certainly not happening on these lands. So working out how does every single person get their share of the Commonwealth? And more and more research, I started realizing that all our precious metals, coal seam gas, uranium, whatever it is that leave our shores, the corporate governments, uni-droit governments, they're known as, they trade in tangible wealth. However, the people within their corporate structure trade in promissory notes. So I'm looking at this tangible wealth, idea, and I've eventually worked out that these tangible checks or exchanges are being made. They total the checks each week or each fortnight, whatever it is, and then they divide it by 26 million Australian persons and float it on the US stock exchange. So these persons are known as birth certificate estate trusts. So the birth certificate is a trust. It's an estate trust that we give life to. They can't enslave man, but what they can do is they can enslave a piece of paper and deceive man to give life to it.
Yep.
And that's exactly what they've done. So every single person being entitled to their share of the Commonwealth, these estate trusts go for 75 years. So the older we get, the more the trusts are worth. And for one person, it's worth into the billions of dollars with a B. Billions of dollars up to 75 years. It's mind-blowing. This is mind-blowing. So wait until I read from my book that's next to me. So the older we get, the more these trusts become, the more valuable they are, more lucrative they are. And they're purloined or plundered during the course of our lives. They can garner up to $9,000 a day each time they put a person in their corporate jail system. That's why they call it jail for profit or prison for profit. They're all corporate, and they've got a massive financial interest in putting us in jail or even hospitals. So the only other way that they can cash this money in or cash the estate trust in is with a death certificate. Birth certificate is cashed in with a death certificate. So after looking at it more and more, I saw in April 2020, exactly 1 month after they announced the pandemic, oil plummeted to minus $38 a barrel. April 2020, oil plummeted to minus $38 a barrel. Well, then you think about the petrodollar. So if oil plummets to minus $38 a barrel, what's that done to the petrodollar? So
crashed it.
It's at this stage I'd like to read from my old Australian law book. It's called Elements of Roman Law by R.W. Lee, printed Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and 1946. So this is in the Law of Persons. Listen carefully. I'm going to read this several times during this interview, if you don't mind, because people really need to get their heads around this. Rights of masters over slaves. Slavery implied complete disability, personal and proprietary. The master could exercise over the slave the power of life and death. And everything acquired by the slave was acquired for the master. A rule only formally qualified if the slave is held in usufruct. So then I started looking at usufruct. Usufruct is Latin, and it means to use the fruit.
Right.
So we know that all roads lead to Rome. Rome wasn't built in a day because they're still building it, and it's called uni-droit. And when in Rome, do what the Romans do. Well, what they're doing is we're being trafficked. So we're held in usufruct. It's the story of Adam and Eve. If you use the poisonous fruit of the birth certificate to identify yourself, you're held in usufruct. You're a slave held in usufruct. And they are saying in black and white in an Australian law book that they have the right to life over death of anyone who uses their intellectual property, and they call it usufruct. So
Right.
if you open up a computer, an Apple computer, what's on the back of it? An apple.
The logo. Yeah.
The logo. But more importantly, if you look at that apple, why is it a little bit different? It's got a bite taken out of it.
Got a bite out of it. Yep.
That's known as the poisonous apple. And if you do your research on the Statue of Liberty, she has a chain around her ankle, and there's a bitten apple next to her foot. And that's why New York is known as the Big Apple. Okay, it's known as the Big Apple. And the Statue of Liberty is not on the land. She's out at sea. She's on her own little island. They made an island because it's all Admiralty maritime law. This is all inland piracy. So I'm reading a bit further into this book. When Rome began to extend her conquest outside of Italy and to engage in distant wars, there's a vast increase in the slave population. It was the practice to allow slaves to deal with their peculium as their own and to purchase their freedom, registration. They were sometimes highly educated men who held important positions in the economic world or made their mark in literature, art, or science. Was the Roman slave a thing or a person? The answer is he was both. He could be owned and as such was a res. Res is Latin. Res is Latin and it means thing. And it's an abbreviation of the word resident. So let me repeat this one again. Was the Roman slave a thing or a person? The answer is he was both. He could be owned and as such was a res. But he was a human being, which means monster in law. Okay, so if you're looking for protection under the International Declaration of Human Rights, I'd say you dig a little bit deeper. But he was a human being, and as such, a person. So that's how.
So a monster and a corporation.
So yeah, corporation. So person's a corporation. We just worked out that persons are corporations. So in my research, there's two of the most important words in law. The most important words in law. One is usufruct. It's the story of Adam and Eve. It's the story of Snow White. It's a story of Apple Mac computers. It's the story of Woolworths and their apples. And it's the story of the Statue of Liberty, because liberty is not for free men and women. Liberty is for slaves that are given liberty to disembark the ship to go ashore on leave. But they still got to come back when the captain says. They've got to behave like as the captain tells them. They've got to follow the rules of the ship, even though that they're on land. It's liberty. They've been given liberty to go ashore. So all this symbolism is telling us. So we go to the Bible. The Bible has 26 extracts that make it very clear for God has no respect of persons. James 2:9 makes it very clear that it is a sin to respect persons. Romans 2:11 says there is no respect of persons with God. And I can go on and on. There's literally 26 extracts. And one of those extracts makes it very clear. I'll share those with you after the show. But one of those extracts makes it very clear that persons, quote, persons perjure themselves. Well, I'm probably paraphrasing, but persons perjure themselves. Because what's the first thing you do in court? Are you Mr. So-and-so? And they go, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that's me.
You're using intellectual property that doesn't belong to you. And back in the older birth certificates, it made it very clear that you don't use it. It's warning, do not use this birth certificate to identify yourself. So it's actually known as trafficking in persons. And the United Nations recognize this. It's called the Palermo Protocols. Palermo, Palermo Protocols. And it's the international recognition of the trafficking in persons, especially women and children, because it all happens at the mother's bedside. The contract is drafted with registration, which means to give away, to give to the king, and you've lost it. Yep. So they're defining us as monsters. Human means monster, and person means corporation. So this is where I'm like, okay, I'm working this all out. So the second word, the most important word in law, is includes. And this was given us, this research comes from Romney Stewart up in Cairns. So includes is the most, and you're going to see it in all heaps of contracts. And it is duplicitous as hell. So there's a maxim that states inclusio exclusio, which is Latin. And you check that inclusio exclusio maxim out, and to paraphrase, everything drafted into a contract intentionally excludes everything not mentioned.
Right.
Okay. That it might sound a little bit difficult. So inclusio exclusio is a Latin maxim. Every time the word includes is used in contract law, it intentionally excludes everything not mentioned. So let me give you an example. The definition of birth in Australian law, the definition of birth, quote, includes a stillbirth, end quote.
Yeah.
So it's excluding everything not mentioned. There's nothing living in that definition. But what they are saying, the definition of birth means everything dead.
Yep. Everything dead.
Can you get your head around that? Includes. So here's another one. The definition of state includes everything up to the shoreline. End quote.
Okay.
The definition of state includes everything up to the shoreline. End quote. So every time they use the word includes, they are deliberately excluding the correct information we need. So, because we started off as TASA, Commonwealth of Australia States Assembly. We just wanted to fit in with the people, work with the people, but we didn't want to do it in usufruct.
Yeah.
So we learned about includes, usufruct, and dog Latin, all caps. It's illegible acronyms in context. Anyway, so we worked out the definition of Australia, which again that came through Romney Stewart up in far north Queensland, up in Cairns. The definition of Australia includes Norfolk Island, Christmas Island, Cocos Island, and Keeling Island, and includes no further territory.
Yeah. That means it doesn't include the land we are standing on.
Correct. Yeah. And nor does the state. So if you're paying rates for land and soil in the state of Queensland, the state of New South Wales, you're being conned.
Yeah.
Outright.
Robbed.
You're being conned, and you've been enslaved by a foreign corporation that is defining you as a thing and a monster. So this is why this is the birth of TASA, Terra Australia States Assembly, and a wonderful long relationship with the Americans. What we figured out after, because we went down all the different groups and we support and love all these groups, they're doing a great job. However, what we found is they're doing it one by one, and it's still, I call it usufruct heavy and usufruct light. Please allow me to explain. So pre-1973, everyone was usufruct light. So they had a lot of freedom. They're out in the exercise yard, but they had a reset, a financial reset. I'm going to blow people's minds. I can keep going on and on, but reset in law, he got away scot-free. It's under Scott law. Webster Dictionary, 1828, reset means to harbour outlaws and criminals.
Oh, wow.
So they had a corporate reset in 1973. And before that, the slaves were defined, or the persons, because I don't want to wind people up too much, but it is what it is. So we're defined as persons, but we were sui juris persons pre-1973, which means a free person, not a free man, a free person. So you're out in the exercise yard, but they're defining themselves as subjects, a British subject. Well, if you look up the word subject, it means thing. Okay.
Yep.
And Britain has totally morphed into a corporation in the last 160 years. So, excuse me, post 1973, we became what's known as alieni juris persons, alien juris persons. So if you put a lien against something, what are you doing? You're freezing it. It's an asset. You're freezing it. Remembering that a name is not, you don't name men and women. You only name things. Men and women have an appellation. So they are, it's all about the naming conventions. And they have frozen those names, those birth certificate estate trusts, and we've been operating as alieni juris persons for the last 50 plus years, which is a person. Alieni juris just means a person with no rights. So we've been confined into a prison cell, and that was the difference. That's the difference between the two. And what we worked out was that sui juris persons are free to run around the exercise yard under what's known as sui generis, SUIGENERIS, sui generis, which is Latin meaning unique. Sui generis common law. Where did sui generis common law come from? It was fabricated in the House of Lords in 1750. So if you start working out what they did in 10 years post 1750, they were sending tall ships all around the world. They were sending them to Canada, South Africa, India, Terra Australis, all around the world, setting up their the corporate British Empire. But they needed the slaves to still think that they are free. So they created sui generis, which means unique, a unique common law. And why was it unique? Because it was all fraud. They were occupying lands that didn't belong to them. They claimed little islands, and they did the same in Canada, and they did the same in South Africa, because we meet with these countries, and we've been meeting with them weekly for several years. And they're all uncovering the same fraud. So going back to the American judge that I discovered 12 years ago, or nearly 12 years ago, and we've been working with her every day and reading her literature every day, like there's 6,000 articles. We've just reverse engineered what happened to them 10 years post 1776, when they won their independence from the Redcoats, which was the British Crown Corporation.
Yep.
So they won the Kinetic Battle, what was known as a civil war, but it was actually a mercenary conflict. They won that. So they won their right to their own governance, and they have what's called a public common law, because they fought shoulder to shoulder with the American Indian to protect their lands. Okay. We haven't done that. Not on these lands, to protect these lands. So they won the right to their own public common law, which means run courts without the British Bar Association. Okay, so the problem was they got usurped by Freemasons within 10 years of 1776.
Wow.
So, and they brought in slowly usurped in the Admiralty Maritime Law, and they're under piracy rule. Inland piracy, press ganging, because if they force you into contract, it's serious crime. If you don't want to be in user for a contract, there's press ganging, it's unlawful conversion, it's Palermo Protocol violations, it's human trafficking, because you're not a hue of man. Hue of man answers the color of law. Man answers to law, natural law. So there's a plethora, a personage, which is forcing you to use a legal name against your will. Barratry, bringing false claims to court. So there's barratry in American public common law. That's 25 years in jail. Personage is 10 years in jail. Press ganging, when they force you to be in their corporate jurisdiction against your will, coupled with the other crimes, it all becomes capital crime because they're doing it at gunpoint, forcing you into their jurisdiction at gunpoint. It's a corporate jurisdiction. You know, at the end of the day, it's all contract law. And they do it through deception of dog Latin, debased dog Latin, which is the all caps that can't be defined in the Oxford style manual, or they're starting to now. However, the fraud is taken back to when it started. So these illegible acronyms, these all caps, the naming of things, naming conventions, and defining us as things, it's all amounts to very serious crimes that are being committed and trespasses being committed against us. So that, to answer your question as succinctly as I could, my apologies, is long-winded, right. But most of this info is in the book. It's an affidavit that the American living law firm produced, Judge Anna von Reitz and the head of state, her husband, James Clinton Belcher, which is an affidavit. And page 169 makes it very clear that they've held a commercial lien over the Australia Corporation for the last 14 years or more, because Australia is a corporation and it's an American-owned asset. US Inc. is a corporation, which is a subsidiary of Britain Inc. or Britain Crown Corp. So basically all roads lead to Rome through the inner city of London. So US Inc. is a corporation, Japan is a corporation, Canada, they're all corporations. And they're using the US military as cheap mercenary forces to enforce their regime, their corporate regime. And, you know, they say Rome wasn't built in a day because they're all unidroit corporations, which it means Vatican corporations. And I urge people to look up unidroit, UNIDROIT, unidroit membership. And I'll quickly find out that Australia is a unidroit corporation. And they go around and bomb the next country and take it over. They put in their money supply, put in their Admiralty Maritime Courts, and off they go again. It's all inland piracy, they call it. So
I know that there are obviously a huge amount of there's a huge amount of information available through TASA on this, as there are through a number of other common law groups. What sort of success are you having using your approach at protecting yourselves in court?
We don't, as reconveyed nationals, so we're reconveying to the land and soil of Terra Australis. What we worked out, excuse me, what we worked out that every time we claimed Australia, that gave them an out. That gave them a jurisdiction to counterclaim us as property belonging to the bankrupt corporation. Remember that Australia is bankrupt. So going back April 2020, oil plummeted minus $38 a barrel. So at the time, they had a $33 trillion debt. How are they going to pay their debt? So we're coming full circle to why I started reading the book. Rights of masters over slaves. Slavery implies complete disability, personal and proprietary. The master can exercise over the slave the power of life and death. Everything acquired by the slave is acquired for the master. A rule formerly qualified the slave is held in usufruct. So their plan all along was to kill off the slaves, cash in their birth certificate of state trust with the death certificate, refloat their boat and have a reset. So the CEO, Charles, some call him a king, but he's actually a CEO of the Britain Corporation. He has publicly announced, he's a 1-minute video with World Economic Forum in the background, where he's publicly announced that he intends to reset the world economy. So again, Webster Dictionary, 1828, reset to harbour outlaws and criminals under Scots law. They want to get away scot-free with what they've been doing. Well, all I've seen since I've been on this realm is war and turmoil, and it's the same people doing it. It's still always the same corporate system doing it, and that's how they're doing it. They're doing it through usufruct, and they tell us in the Bible, because the Bible is the ultimate law book. And people go, but I'm not religious. And my first question is, have you got a driver's license? Oh, yeah. Oh, so you're sole contracted to the Roman Catholic Church, and you're telling me you're not religious. And I'm saying to you, that's hypocrisy. And some people say, oh, but I am religious. I'll say, well, don't you read the Bible? It makes it very clear that God does not respect persons. What are you doing in corporate jurisdiction? Because, if you're acting as a person, you're acting, giving life to a corporation. Now, it's very deep.
What is the solution here? How do people, watching this right now, sit at home and say, well, these are all wonderful words that you're saying, but how do I act not as a slave? How do I break this chain?
Well, what we're doing is working with the Americans. We're working with Scotland, England, Ireland, Wales, South Africa, Spain, Estonia. We're working with countries all around the world, and we're all building our assemblies together. The Americans recognize us and we recognize them. And we stand in our own courts because we've never had a legitimate government in this country. We've had service providers, and that's what they are, and they're very good at providing a service, or like a bull services a cow, I guess. But we have service providers masquerading as government. Excuse me. So our idea is that we don't want to overthrow service providers. We're not here to try and destruct our service providers. We just realise that they've gone rogue and they're using a lot of fraud to deceive the people. And we need to take the reins and give them wholesome direction, of, for, and by the people. So we're all standing our assemblies and standing our legitimate courts. And the Americans have actually repatriated trillions of dollars of gold-backed currency that have been purloined from our forefathers. So there's other people trying to get their hands on this gold, and they're trying to claim this gold and precious assets as abandoned funds. Okay, and the Americans have Arnavon Rights and the Living Law Firm have gone up. They're not abandoned funds. We've claimed them. We've been claiming them legitimately, claiming them for the last 40 years, and they've repatriated well over $2 trillion. It started floating on the US stock exchange in February, or publicly floating. So
this could well be a portion of the wealth that we hear is going to be injected back into the system. That's what you're saying?
Correct. But there's nefarious things going on. And, I don't like to point fingers, but all I say is if they want to give you money and you don't comprehend usufruct, use a fruct. Quite literally. Yeah. If it smells like dog poop and looks like dog poop and and feels like dog poop, it's probably dog poop. So in other words, if they want you to recontract to get money, you've got to use ID. Remember that at the start of the bankruptcy, when oil plummeted to minus $38 a barrel, soon after that, they're having a big referendum. The yes-no vote. Remember that?
Yes.
Do you think they cared if you voted yes? Do you think they cared if you voted no? They didn't care at all. All they wanted you to do was come in and use their intellectual property, hold up a license, and they point to the license and they go, is that you? And you go, yeah, that's me. When you're standing right next to it. Okay, and pum cha-ching, okay, you just sign there. And you sign and you're recontracted as a slave held under terms of unconscionable usufruct. So This is how we keep getting ourselves back into the slavery, because we do things like protest. Well, protest means to beg. A petition. Petition means to beg. You're begging your masters, which is a foreign private rapacious corporation with pernicious intent for you and your families, who are defining you as a thing and a monster. And they are saying in black and white that they have the right to your life over death. So they have a bankruptcy, and they're cashing their chattel in, legally defined chattel, so they can refloat their ship, their citizenship, and make it liquid again. Off they go again and do it all again. And it's two governments. A lot of people don't realise we have two governments. One government misaddresses us using titles. Titles are only for slaves. So the government that misaddresses us using Mr., Mrs., Doctor, Professor, all these titles, that's known as the British territorial government. And the other government is the Roman municipal. And the Roman municipal government always mischaracterize us using all caps. They misaddress us with all caps. So when you get one on the ropes, okay, you're holding one down, and then you get another letter, but they're actually addressing a different person or a different corporation. And if you're illiterate, because dog Latin literally means it's bastardized Latin, similar to English, used on the English grammatical scale to deceive illiterate persons. So if you don't know the difference every time they send you a windowed envelope, and you don't know the difference of the formats, well, you can guarantee if it's a windowed envelope, it's not for you anyway. It's an offer to contract for a foreign estate trust that you're giving life to, that you're being deceived into giving life to. So that's how you know the difference. That's how you know. And a lot of people now in courts, they're pointing out the fraud because they get summoned to court. And this is why we don't go to court, because it's all fraud. And the Bible says you're committing perjury as a person. If you know, that's why you're committing perjury, because you're answering to a name that doesn't belong to you. But the court documents, they're actually getting a highlighting pen and highlighting everything in all caps, one color, and everything in title case with upper and lower case in another color, and going, well, you've got two jurisdictions on the same paperwork. That's fraud. You know, dog Latin is a foreign language. You can't have it's called glossa. It's legally defined as glossa, and glossa is further defined as the poisonous and the poison in the text. So basically, long story short, it's all riddled with fraud. Even you go to the 1900 Constitution, it makes it very clear on page 36, the 1900 or 1901, whichever you prefer, makes it very clear on page 36 that Australia is a penal settlement. An Acts Interpretation Act 1901, Section 2B, clearly defines Australia as including Norfolk Island, Christmas Island, Cocos Island, and Keeling Island, and includes no further territory. So every time we claim Australia, or the Australia Corporation, which has always been a corporation because these lands were not terra nullis. The blackfellow was already here.
Yep.
God love them. So they couldn't claim these lands, but they deceived everyone to think. They deceived everything.
They didn't invade. They didn't fight a war to win. They just snuck in.
Exactly. And we've all been duped. Black, white, or brindle, doesn't matter who you are, we've all been cooked. They cooked us all. But every time we claim Australia, or we claim their courts, they're always going to counterclaim us as a thing that God does not respect, a person. So
how do we fight back?
Pardon?
How do we fight back?
So reconveyance. It's a matter of severing the usufruct contract. We reconvey our bank accounts. We reconvey our marriages. We reconvey our businesses. We reconvey our homes, our properties, back to where we were actually put on this earth by our mother, because even born is questionable nowadays. It's a nativity. Mm-hmm. So we were born in these lands, and we weren't born on Norfolk Island, Christmas Island, Cocos Island, or Keeling Island. We were shanghaied. So the paperwork process can take anywhere from a week to 2 months. So there is a period of time that we were true blue terra australicans. We were born on this land. And then we are shanghaied out to a C jurisdiction with the registration process. That's where the trafficking in persons or the Palermo protocols come into it, especially women and children, because they are being shanghaied and trafficked and put into a foreign jurisdiction when the actual fact of the matter is we're born here. So all we have to do is reclaim what was originally ours, and that's our birthright, if you want to put it like that, our born right, to be on the land and soil of where we were created. So that's all we do. We reconvey the bank accounts because no longer are we a authorized signatory. We become the signatory. No longer is it a personal account. That's why it's a personal account. Have you ever heard them say to you when you're pulling out a couple of grand, what are you going to spend that money on? Well,
it's all you hear.
Because it's their money. You're putting it. That's why they call it a personal account. It's for a person. It's a corporate account. It's their money because it's their intellectual property. Every time we use that name, we're actually in fraud because it's an intellectual property that doesn't belong to us, and we're deceived into using it. So
and they hold you to that because of the promissory notes that they're going to give you, so you can go and buy that car. Or
so you spend your life paying for a $500,000 property, okay? And what's it paid with? It's paid with promises from jerk-offs. Okay, so you made your last payment, and even when you make your last payment, the bank usually neglects to point out that you need to discharge the mortgage. We've had people morgue. Just think about morgue. It's for dead people. That's what a mortgage. It's a death pledge mortgage. So we've had people that have reconveyed their properties and they paid their property off 30 years ago, but they never discharged it. So the bank has held a vested financial interest in their property for the 30 years, and then they go in and pay an extra $500 and have the property discharged. So these are the sorts of criminal frauds and deceptions that are happening to each and every one of us. So we need to be working together and with love and unity and kindness to defeat this satanic evil, because this is beyond. We're not going to. If you vote harder, it's not going to change things because their definitions don't change from left to right. They're two cheeks on the same arse. Two cheeks on the same backside. So you can't vote harder and think things are going to change, because this is in their literature. This book is 1946, so this is before the reset in 1972, 73 with the other corporate government. So this is why they have the two snakes. And most importantly, I'd like people to check out the hospiteurs or the hospitateurs. So our research is taking us back to the Hospitateurs Handbook of 1099 to 1310. And it makes it very clear, quote, that the hospitals are a religious military. And this is why we're taking it. They're run by a Surgeon General. You get put in wards. Nurses run around taking a doctor's orders. And if you're sick of being patient while they practice, you need to get yourself a discharge. It is religious military. And that's not my opinion. I'll share the link with you after the show with that as well.
Yeah,
so you can people can see it for themselves. So what we've endured for nearly 6 years, corporations all trading whilst insolvent. They're all trading whilst insolvent, and they're about to reset to harbour outlaws and criminals. And they want to do it with digital currency because they've got nothing. And if they don't like your comments on social media that week, and you go to get your groceries, you'll be declined at the till. You've only got to look at all the shopping centres. They're big, large shopping centres. A lot of the shelves are getting doors on them nowadays. You won't even be able to open a door without biometric identification. So
And if you
back to
been
your
approved,
original
it
question,
will open.
what do we do? What do we do? So we're reconveying out of that jurisdiction back to the land and soil jurisdiction of Terra Australis. We're recognised internationally. We have total recognition by the Americans, who, by the way, the Judge Annabon Rights is the fiduciary of the Australia Corporation, is holding all the assets. And all this affidavit is unrebutted, irrefutable. So if you think there is any remedy in law and they're ignoring this was set in stone the actual lien was publicised in 2014. So the lien over the Australia Corporation and all its assets, because they had to rein in their corporate government that was working in their name, because they've occupied since World War II. They've occupied nearly 300 countries with their military bases. So, and they've taken these countries over as assets belonging to America. So they've had to retain those assets in a massive lien. They've got a $279 trillion lien against the International Bar Association.
Yeah.
There's lots going on that people don't know.
I just want to take you back to reconstituting yourself, your assets and everything. Let's say we've gone through that process. We've reconstituted. We've essentially removed ourselves. We are the living man living on the land.
Man and soil.
You've pointed out that the corporations are putting doors on the supermarket fruit and veg shelves, and biometric readings and all that are going to be required to get in and open that. How does that, once we reconstitute, once we remove ourselves from the corporation own the assets that we need to eat or that we need to gain access to for our daily life. Will they not exercise their power over us if we were to enter back into their realm?
This is a great question, and it's pertinent that we don't discuss it much because people lose focus. They focus on it, but this repatriated wealth that I've been talking about will go into funding Treasury. So we've got a lot of different groups working with TASA, and one of them is the Treasury, and we're working closely with a group called Global Family Group, which is the exchanging platform that Anna Von Reitz and James Clinton Belcher have chosen to disperse the prosperity. So they're creating a prosperity system. It's not a banking system per se, it's prosperity. So they're not going to loan us money, they're giving the money back to the people. And they're going to be, once we announce our assemblies stood, or we've already announced the start of our assemblies, we did that 12th of January last year. However, once we stand all four pillars, there's four pillars. It gets deep into it, but one of the pillars is the courts, and another is the Treasury. We'll be then funding the police, we'll be funding the prisons, we'll be funding the schools, the hospitals, the whole lot. The people will be funding it. It won't be coming from Britain Corp. It won't be coming from anywhere else. It'll be coming from the people. It's the people's initiative.
How will the corporation that's currently funding the police and the military and all that, how will their funds be put aside and these funds?
Because they're having the reset, and they've got very few funds. Who's paying those wages right now is a company called Serco, which is traced right back to the royal family, and the royal family is corporate, German and corporate.
Yep.
So
by Prince William.
Prince William, Serco, exactly. Yeah, I wasn't going to go so deep, but you're exactly on point. So Serco, with their reset, they are, GFG, who the Americans are working with, are Basel IV compliant. They are the highest in the world. And the banks around the world, which are shutting at an exponential rate around the world because of what these Americans are doing, they are struggling to become Basel III compliant. And the world is entitled to the highest standard. So the highest standard is Basel IV compliance. And they are giving the wealth back to the people. You don't have to loan it. They are literally giving it back to the people. So I'd urge everyone to check out Global Family Group, or I'll put the link in in our chats for our website.
Yep.
We charge $1 a month. It helps us run the website.
Yep.
If you become a member, it's not a PMA, but we ask for $12 a year, and you have access to thousands of dollars worth of documents. The information on the website is mind blowing. And it's not just from me; it's from a lot of people that have brought all that information together.
What is the easiest way, or how is the easiest way for people to find more information on TASA?
Okay, so it'd be the website, or
Yep.
we've this year we've released a newspaper called the Terra Australis. I have the link there as well, the terraaustralis.net. It's about to be international and go digital. Or
I'm just
the best
copying
and
a few of
fastest.
these out so I can post them up for folks and put them in the chat.
Yeah, and what I'll do while I'm talking to you now is I'll drop our link for Telegram. We're on Telegram. We're very active in Telegram, and here's the link for Telegram. There you go, the bottom link there.
Beautiful.
Very active on Telegram. I guess we're close to 24 different groups in Telegram now, because there's 2,000 people reconveyed on Terra Australis now, and it's growing exponentially. We're getting a lot of pastors, reverends, solicitors, doctors, a lot of upstanding people in the community doing their homework and researching what the information that we're sharing, and they're realizing this is the only way is out of usufruct. And claim back what is ours, which is what our forefathers have died for. If the people really comprehended that the battles on Gallipoli and this sort of thing were literally blood sacrifices, they were resetting and cashing in their chattel. You know, 60 plus thousand troops just smashed within minutes, and that they're just going cha-ching, 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 cashing in those birth certificate of state trusts. And they realize there is no remedy in that their stinking bucket. We call it the usufruct bucket. You know, you're trying to lift the handle while you're standing in it, and you can't. Yeah. You can't get sincere remedy because the game is rigged. They are defining you as a thing, quite literally defining us as things, resident. You know, res.
And because we don't understand language, we've forgotten the fact that words mean things, and it's called spelling for a reason. We need to re-educate ourselves, and I think what you're doing with TASA is helping people understand that division between the person and the living man. I know there's a lot of common groups that are doing it. I'm finding, your explanations very easy to understand and something easy to work. And through these websites, people will be able to get the tools to go through this process. And I gather, because TASA has got groups and individuals all over the country, like you say, there's a lot of people.
Absolutely. There's assemblies.
Like you and I got hooked up through a marvelous Singleton. So, this is a movement that is well spread across the country. I know most common law groups have, a pretty good dispersal of people in it. How do you find working with the other groups? Where are the differences? Where are the issues, if you like? Because any number of common law groups think they have a solution, and yet when you compare all those common law groups together and their solutions, you see differences. And this is where the infighting, if you like, kicks in and does none of us any good. So have you been able to identify those sorts of areas and how we can work through those with the other groups?
Well, absolutely. So we're heading towards natural law. We're researching natural law. We have another group on Telegram called Towards Natural Law. So please, while I'm with you, I may as well share that link as well. So we're heading towards natural law, LAW and LORE.
Yep.
So here we go. Because natural law is what was here before we got here. And here we go. I'm just putting it in the chats now.
Now, for folks who aren't fully aware of what Telegram is, if you type that in, you will get a Telegram site pop up, and just join that. It'll ask you to download an app. The app is easier to work. So that's that's for the Telegram app, and I'll just post up this other one now. I'm going to copy it out.
So Telegram's where everyone goes after they get kicked off Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
and while you'll find a lot of crap on Telegram, you'll also find a hell of a lot of truth. So this is also the Telegram chat for the natural law side.
There you go. Yeah. So
mate, that is
we're stepping away from their courts. We're dealing with their courts with the paperwork, because the fraud and criminality is immense. You are never going to get a fair hearing in their courts, because you're not, they only recognize things. They're administrative courts to administer things, not living men and women. So it's up to us to stand up. We're no longer infants. We're in the world of technology and knowledge, and we can step up and stand on our own 2 feet and our own truth with our own wisdom and teach each other. We have local assemblies countrywide. There's dozens and dozens of them, and they are popping up like spring daisies, and they're powerful. Local area assemblies have their own issues in their own areas. It might be fluoride, or most areas are having trouble with fluoride. But as a collective, we have the Solicitor General on notice, because the Solicitor General is the only soul in the whole government, the only soul who is obliged to know all forms of law. So as of about 3 months ago, we had the Solicitor General notice with this. We've been given permission to print these, and we've had a fundraiser, and we got enough funds to print 2,000 of these. We also got permission to add a 4-page addendum in the front. So it shows our identification. It's more about us. There's the ID there. So that's what our ID looks like, front and back. Now you see the Great American Seal there. That's from the legitimate unincorporated government, and there's no ring around it. There's no ring around that seal. So that's for us here in Terra Australis, and that QR code, check that out. That takes you to Global Family Group if you want to learn about the money. Beautiful. Right, and so that Great American Seal is from the legitimate unincorporated American government, and that's them. They are allowing us to use that until we have all our 4 pillars stood for our protection. That is letting the corporate government know that we are not only recognised, we're recorded, and we are protected by the legitimate American government. And their fiduciary, Anna Von Reitz, is a fiduciary of the Australia Corporation. They will give us as soon as we have our assemblies fully stood, they will give us our assets back. And we're already eyeing off abandoned courthouses around the country, and lockups and buildings that are ripe for us to reclaim back. They're our assets.
Wonderful.
So,
Muki, I want to continue this conversation. I'd like to do this on a regular basis and just see how it's all tracking and what we can do education-wise to help learn how we can get ourselves out of this slave trap that we've been put in. So if you're up for it, I'd be very happy to keep having conversations with you and seeing how deeply we can explore this and how many people we can get to come on board and try and put themselves in the right form of standing and be ready for this wealth and abundance that hopefully will be coming our way.
No, it's not hopefully. It's already it started floating in on the 7th of February this year. It's there. The prosperity system is, they announced about a week ago, it is fully, completely ready to go. They've won all the battles in court. We're just waiting for the villains to stand down. The thing is, they're committing capital crimes. They're not in a rush to stand down. So they've got their plan. So let their plans fizzle out. And I wouldn't urge anyone to take my word for it. I really, like, for $12, I highly recommend becoming a member of the site and just start reading. The paperwork is exceptional, and we have a lot to offer. That's all I'm saying.
Muki, thank you very much for spending a bit of time with us here today. I'm sorry it's taken so long to get you on the show, but I've found this to be a fascinating conversation. I'm a big follower of common law and trying to find a way through. I find myself always getting to the end game and asking, what is the solution when we get to the end game? And I've struggled to find any form of solution in history that hasn't involved bloodshed. This solution that you're putting forward doesn't involve bloodshed at all. And I think it is a very powerful thing that you're doing, and more Australians should be learning about this. I mean, it's up to each of us to learn, educate, and believe or disbelieve what you're seeing. We need to use our discernment, and in part, that's what we've been trying to teach people here, and I'm sure you've been trying to teach people that for the last 12 or 16 years. So I think we are moving forward in that particular area, and I wish you all the best with this, and anything I can do to help support you going forward, mate, I'm happy to do.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we've got a bit of a motto. It's love, unity, consciousness. People wake up conscious and work with their local communities. They're literally assemblies. They're all over the country. So if you get on the website or on Telegram, we're forever promoting the different assemblies. And we're nearly up to 17 different websites for all the different assemblies around the country. So we're expanding pretty rapidly. Thank you so much.
Mate, we'll be in touch again. We'll have you on again in the very near future, and we'll talk about next steps.
All right. Thank you very much again.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time, Muki from TASA. And if you'd like to learn more information, then by all means, folks, these are the sites you need to take down and have a look at. I'll leave them up just for a little while, or just take a snapshot off your phone or whatever, so that you can write them down and go online and check out these groups. You can see the Telegram channels. If you're not familiar with Telegram, then get familiar with Telegram. You will find that you could be overwhelmed in Telegram with a whole heap of crap. So bear that in mind. But find people who use it, find people who have found sites that they trust inside Telegram, and you will be to the benefit of that, very much so. Okay, folks, so going to love you and leave you for tonight, and we will look forward to speaking to you again. If you're happening over the weekend doing weird and wonderful things, then make sure you do them safely, and whatever you do, make sure you avoid those dickheads on the roads.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's rock!